The first thing everyone noticed about Anna was her smile. It was bright, steady, and so natural that no one ever imagined there could be pain behind it. In her college, she was known as the cheerful girl who helped everyone with notes, cracked small jokes in class, and always showed up on time. Teachers trusted her. Classmates admired her. Some even envied her confidence. What they never knew was how carefully she had built that mask. On the outside, she looked like any other student from a normal middle-class home. Inside, her world was falling apart. Anna lived with her mother in a tiny rented portion in a narrow street. Her father had passed away 2 years earlier after a sudden heart attack. His death didn't just break her mother emotionally, it also left them with unpaid medical bills and no income. Her mother stitched clothes at home to make ends meet, but even after hours of sitting at the machine, her earnings were hardly enough for rent and groceries. College had always been Anna's dream. Her father used to say, "Education is your ticket to respect. No one can take it from you." Those words were now the only thing that kept her going. When she got admission, everyone assumed her father had left savings or family support. But the truth was different. Her mother had cried the night the admission letter arrived because she didn't know how they would pay even the first semester fee. Anna had wiped her tears and said, "I'll handle it." She didn't know how, but she refused to let her dream die. That night was the first time she realized that childhood was over. She was no longer a daughter who could depend on someone else. She had to be the one who stood strong. On her first day of college, she took a deep breath before entering the gate. Her shoes were worn out. Her bag was old. Her clothes were simple. But her confidence was real. She kept reminding herself, "No one needs to know what's happening at home. They just need to see me moving forward." From the moment she stepped into class, she decided something silently. She would never tell anyone about her financial situation. Not her friends. Not her teachers. Not even the girl who sat beside her and kept talking about her own expensive lifestyle. She believed that if people knew she was struggling, they would treat her differently. Maybe with pity. Maybe with distance. She didn't want either. So she smiled. Every morning she helped her mother with house chores, skipped breakfast to save food, and walked to college to save bus money. By the time she reached campus, her feet were tired, but her face never showed it. She listened carefully in lectures because she couldn't afford extra books or tuition. She studied under the dim light at night because electricity bills were already overdue. But in class, she always raised her hand confidently when the teacher asked a question. Her classmates thought she was naturally intelligent. They didn't know she studied late while her mother slept. They didn't know she sometimes drank water to kill hunger. They didn't know that on some days she had to choose between buying notebooks or buying milk. Nobody asked. Nobody noticed. Nobody imagined that one day during break, her friends were discussing their weekend plans. One of them said, "Let's go to the new cafe." Everyone's posting about it. They turned to Anna and asked, "You're coming, right?" Anna smiled politely and said, "I have some family work. Maybe next time." But the truth was she didn't have even 200 rupees in her bag. Her wallet had been empty for weeks. When she got home that evening, she saw her mother sitting silently beside the sewing machine, holding her back in pain. The machine needle had broken and they didn't have money to buy a new one yet. For a moment, fear pressed on Anna's chest. Without the machine, there would be no income. Without income, they would fall behind on rent. And without stability, she could lose her chance to study. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She quietly made dinner, helped her mother lie down, and sat by the window. She watched other houses filled with light, laughter, and the smell of cooked food. Her own home was silent and tired. In that silence, she made a decision that would change her life. She would find a way to pay her fees herself. She would not give up college. And she would not tell anyone what she was going through. She whispered to herself, "If life is testing me, then I'll prove I can pass." She didn't know how hard that road would be. But she was ready to walk it, alone, and still smiling. The next morning, Anna woke up before sunrise. Her mother was still asleep. She quietly got ready and left the house early, not to go to college, but to look for work. She walked through streets filled with shops opening for the day. She asked at bakeries, stationery stores, and small boutiques if they needed part-time help. Most said no. Some didn't bother responding. A few managers laughed and said, "Students only want pocket money. We need real workers." By noon her feet hurt and her throat felt dry. She sat on a bench and looked at the sky. The fear of failing tried to creep in, but she pushed it away. She stood up again and kept walking. As she reached a roadside stall selling tea and snacks, she noticed a help wanted sign. She asked the owner timidly, "Sir, do you still need someone?" The owner looked her up and down. "Ever worked before?" "No," she said honestly, "but I can learn," he shrugged. "It's basic cleaning, washing cups, serving tea. Pay is small. How much?" Her heart raced as she waited. $3,000 a month. It wasn't much, but it was something. She nodded. "I'll do it." He handed her an apron and pointed to the sink. She washed cups for hours, wiping tables, sweeping floors. The smell of tea made her stomach churn because she hadn't eaten. When customers laughed loudly, she wondered if they'd laugh the same way if they knew she was a college student struggling to pay fees. But she didn't let those thoughts stop her. She worked until evening, then hurried to college for her afternoon class. She arrived late. The teacher paused and stared. Late on the second week of class, Anna stood still. She could have said she was working. She could have asked for understanding. Instead, she simply said, "Sorry, sir. It won't happen again." No one knew that her hands were red from scrubbing dishes. No one knew she hadn't had a proper meal since morning. No one knew her head was throbbing from exhaustion. After class, her friends asked, "Why were you late?" She smiled. Traffic. That smile had become her shield. Her routine changed completely. She worked at the stall in the mornings, attended classes in the afternoons, and studied late at night. Her mother eventually noticed she was leaving early, but Anna told her she was going to the library. She didn't want her mother to worry or feel guilty. Some days she earned small tips from customers. Those tiny coins felt like treasure. She saved every rupee in a small jar hidden in her cupboard. Every time she dropped a coin inside, she whispered, "Closer to my fees." But fatigue began to hit her. She often skipped lunch because she wanted to save money. She sometimes slept in class without meaning to. Her friends started joking, "You study too much. You need rest." She laughed along, but inside she knew it wasn't rest she needed. It was food and sleep. One night, when she sat to study, her vision blurred. She rubbed her eyes, but the words refused to focus. Her head felt heavy. She placed her head on the table, telling herself she would rest for just a minute, but she fell asleep instantly. Hours later, her mother woke her gently. "Beta, are you okay? You look pale." Anna forced a smile. "Just tired." Her mother watched her closely but didn't press. Mothers always sense more than they say. The next week was even harder. The tea stall owner increased her tasks. She cleaned utensils, wiped spills, carried heavy trays. Her hands developed cuts. Her back ached constantly. But she kept going because she had a deadline. Fees were due in 2 months. One evening at the stall, a classmate passed by, laughing with friends. Anna quickly turned away, hiding her face. She didn't want anyone from college to see her like that. But the classmate paused, squinted, and asked, "Anna, is that you?" Her heart stopped. But another customer called loudly, distracting him, and he walked away. She breathed out slowly, wiping sweat from her forehead. She told herself she could not risk being seen. If someone found out, rumors would spread. People would treat her differently, maybe even pity her. The thought terrified her. So she started leaving college immediately after class and reaching home without meeting anyone. She avoided invitations, group study sessions, and small hangouts her friends planned. Slowly, she began to drift away from them without meaning to. But even in this difficult routine, something kept her moving. Every time she counted the money in her jar, she saw progress. It was still small, but it was hers. earned with her own hands. That feeling became her strength. Late one night, while looking at her notes, she realized something. She wasn't just fighting for fees. She was fighting for her dignity, her future, her mother's peace, and her father's dream. She looked at the ceiling and whispered, "I won't give up, not now. Not ever." She didn't know that the hardest part was still ahead, and she had no idea that soon someone would discover her secret. 2 more months passed and Anna had earned enough to cover most of her semester fees, but she was still short by a few thousand. Her body felt weaker every day. She had lost weight, her clothes had become loose, and her eyes carried dark circles that even her smile couldn't hide anymore. One morning at the stall, she felt dizzy while carrying a tray of hot tea. Her legs shook and she dropped the cups, shattering them on the ground. The owner yelled, "Careless girl! Do you know how much this costs?" She tried to apologize, but her voice cracked. Before she could steady herself, she collapsed onto a chair. Her hands were trembling. Her vision blurred again. The owner frowned. "If you can't handle the work, leave." She looked up helplessly. "Please, sir? Just a few more weeks." He sighed and waved her away. "Clean the mess and don't drop anything again." She knelt down and picked up the broken pieces with shaking fingers. A small shard cut her palm, but she didn't react. She had become used to pain. After work, she walked to college slowly, every step heavy. When she entered the classroom, her teacher stopped mid-sentence. "Anna, are you all right?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I'm fine." But she was in single quotes T. During group presentations, she struggled to speak clearly. Her voice was weak. She couldn't focus on the slides. Her classmates exchanged glances. One girl whispered she looked sick. When the class ended, her closest classmate, Sarah, approached her. "Anna, what's going on? You've changed. You hardly talk. You look exhausted." Anna forced a smile. "Just studying hard." Sarah frowned. "Studying doesn't make someone this weak." Before the conversation could continue, Anna walked away. She didn't want to answer questions she couldn't explain. At home, her mother noticed her limp. "Did you hurt your foot?" "No, just tired," Anna replied, heading straight to her room. That night, as she counted her savings, she realized she still didn't have enough. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to cry softly. She covered her mouth so her mother wouldn't hear. She cried for her father, for her mother, for herself, for the weight she had been carrying alone. When the tears finally stopped, she wiped her face and told herself she had to find another income source. She couldn't risk losing her seat in college. She couldn't let her mother struggle forever. The next day, she searched online for part-time jobs. Most required experience or long hours she couldn't manage. Then she found something small but doable. A tutoring ad. A family looking for someone to teach a young girl basic English for 1 hour daily. She messaged them. They agreed to meet. When she arrived at their home, she was surprised. It was a comfortable apartment with polite parents and a cheerful 8-year-old girl named Heba. The mother asked, "Are you a college student?" "Yes, you look very young to teach." "Are you sure you can?" Anna nodded quietly. "I'll try my best." After the first lesson, the mother smiled. "You're patient. Heba likes you. We can pay $2,000 a month." It wasn't much, but it was a blessing. Anna accepted with gratitude. Now her days became even longer. Tea stall in the morning, college in the afternoon, tutoring in the evening. She barely slept. She barely ate. But she kept going because she was so close to her goal. However, her body was reaching its limit. One afternoon at college, during a written quiz, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She struggled to write. Her head felt heavy and her vision went dark around the edges. She tried to focus, but the words on the paper blurred. Suddenly, she slumped forward on her desk. Her classmates gasped. The teacher rushed toward her. "Anna, can you hear me?" She didn't respond. Within minutes, she was in the campus medical room. A nurse checked her pulse and blood pressure. Severe weakness, dehydration, low blood sugar. The nurse asked gently, "When did you last eat?" Anna opened her eyes slightly and whispered, "I don't remember." Those words hit the nurse like a punch. Sarah, who had followed her there, stood frozen. She had never seen Anna like this. The cheerful girl who always smiled, now lying pale and weak. When Anna sat up slowly, Sarah held her hand. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Anna looked away. "It's nothing. I'll be fine." Sarah shook her head. "This is not nothing. You need help." Anna pulled her hand back gently. "I just need to get through this semester." Sarah hesitated. "Are you having financial problems?" Anna's heart stopped. For a moment she considered telling the truth, but then she remembered her promise to herself. She didn't want pity. She didn't want sympathy. So she lied softly. "No, I'm okay." But Sarah didn't believe her. Later that evening, as Anna walked out of campus, she felt someone watching her. She turned and saw Sarah at a distance. Looking worried, something in that moment told Anna that her secret wouldn't stay hidden much longer. And she was right. Everything was about to change. The next morning, Anna woke up feeling weaker than ever. Her stomach ached from hunger. Her hands felt cold. But she forced herself to get ready for work at the tea stall. Her mother watched her closely. "You're leaving so early again." Anna nodded. "Library project." Her mother frowned. "You've been working too hard." "Are you sure?" Before she could finish, Anna grabbed her bag and left. She couldn't afford questions. "Not now." At the stall, the owner noticed her weakness. "If you faint again, I'm firing you." She lowered her head. "I'll manage." By afternoon she could barely stand. She asked the owner softly, "Can I leave an hour early today?" He scowled. "No, finish your shift." She tried. She truly did. But halfway through wiping a table, her vision faded. The room spun. She collapsed on the floor. Someone shouted for help. A customer splashed water on her face. The owner threw his hands up. "This girl is useless. She's not worth the trouble." A stranger helped her sit up. "Do you have someone to call?" Anna shook her head weakly. "No, I'm fine. I just need to go." She dragged herself outside, leaning against walls as she walked. She was too embarrassed to stay longer. On the street, she paused to catch her breath. She felt tears build but held them back. She couldn't fall apart. Not yet. She still had tutoring. She still had college. And she still didn't have enough money. When she reached the apartment for tutoring, Heba opened the door, smiling brightly. "Anna Pa, you came." Anna smiled faintly. Of course, but halfway through the lesson, her voice faltered. Her hands trembled. The mother noticed immediately. "Are you okay?" Before Anna could respond, she slumped forward again. The mother rushed to her side. "You need a doctor." Anna shook her head weakly. "Please, don't call anyone." "I'm fine," the mother insisted. After checking her pulse, she said gently, "This is not normal. You're exhausted, hungry. You need rest." Anna's eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them quickly. "I can't stop. I need to earn." The mother paused. "Earn for what?" Anna hesitated, then whispered, "College fees." The mother's expression softened. "Does your family know?" Anna shook her head. "I don't want them to worry." The mother sat beside her. "You're carrying all this by yourself." Anna didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The silence was enough. Before she left, the mother pressed an envelope into her hand. "Advance payment." Anna tried to refuse. "I haven't earned it yet. It's not charity," the mother said softly. "It's support. Take it." Anna accepted it with shaky hands. When she reached home, she opened the envelope. It was enough to cover the remaining fees. For a moment she just stared at it, unable to breathe. She had done it. She had enough. She could stay in college. She wanted to scream from relief. But instead she just closed her eyes and let the tears fall quietly. The next day was fee submission day. Anna walked into campus slowly, holding her bag close as if it carried her entire future. The line was long. Students chatted casually, laughing, complaining about the semester. Anna stood silently, clutching her form. When she reached the counter, she took out the money with trembling hands. The staff member counted it, stamped her receipt and said, "You're all set for the semester." Those words hit her harder than she expected. All her pain, her hunger, her exhaustion had led to this moment. She stepped outside and exhaled shakily. She felt lighter, almost weightless. As she turned the corner, she stopped. Standing there was Sarah. Sarah folded her arms gently. "I know about the tea stall." Anna froze. "Who told you?" "I saw you yesterday," Sarah said quietly. "I followed you." Anna's heart raced. "Please don't tell anyone." Sarah stepped closer. "Why did you hide this?" Anna looked down. "Because I didn't want pity. I didn't want anyone to think I didn't belong here." Sarah's voice softened. "You didn't need to suffer alone." Anna finally looked up, eyes filled. "I didn't have a choice." Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder. "You always had a choice. You could have trusted someone." Anna shook her head. "Trust doesn't pay fees." For a moment, both girls stood silently. Then Sarah took a deep breath. "Come with me." Before Anna could respond, she followed her to the student support office. Sarah spoke to the counselor. "She needs help." Anna panicked. "Sarah, please." But the counselor smiled warmly. "It's okay. We're here to support students like you." After a short meeting, they informed her that she was eligible for a scholarship based on merit and financial hardship. Her grades were among the highest in her department. The scholarship would cover the remaining semesters. Anna stared at them in disbelief. "I didn't know this existed." The counselor nodded. "Most students don't ask." "You should have." For the first time in months, she felt something she had forgotten. Relief. When she walked out, Sarah smiled. "See, you deserve help." Anna wiped her eyes. "Thank you." Sarah laughed lightly. "No more hiding?" "Okay." Anna nodded. "Okay." When she reached home, she finally told her mother everything. The tea stall, the hunger, the tutoring, the collapse, the fees, the scholarship. Her mother began to cry, holding her tight. "Why didn't you tell me?" Anna whispered. "Because I wanted you to rest. I wanted to make you proud." Her mother cupped her face. "I was already proud." "You didn't need to suffer alone." That night, Anna slept peacefully for the first time in months. Years later, she graduated at the top of her class. She got a steady job. She moved her mother to a better home. And she never forgot the girl she once was, the girl who smiled through pain, the girl who worked silently, the girl who hid her struggles to protect her dreams, the girl who proved that strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's steady. It's brave. And it changes everything.